Just wanted to say hello to everyone that was online. To say thank you, wanted to directly thank you very much for joining us, and for all of you who really wanted to be here in person. Just to extend my apologies that because we had only a few spaces available in the museum here, that it wasn't possible to have you all and to host you all. But hopefully through these online sessions, the poster sessions, and through Q&A throughout the week, we will be able to hear your voices. But thank you very much for joining. We know there's lots of people joining from all over the world and bringing their diverse experiences and wisdoms, and we look forward to hearing more from you as we go along. If you've got any questions about what's happening, then please do let us know. And also we will be sharing videos of the ceremonial aspects and the cultural aspects. We've got a videographer here who's busily making little films to share with you, so that hopefully you will feel involved in what we're trying to do here in Oxford, even though you're joining us remotely. So thank you very much for your attention and your good intentions too for the week. Much appreciated. Thank you. Back to you, Alex.
Great, thank you, Natalie. That's wonderful. So yeah, this is a fully hybrid conference, and so we're trying to do our best to connect the online audience with the in-person events. So I'm going to say a few words about this session. This is the first poster session of the conference. And the posters that you're about to see collectively underscore the multifaceted benefits of nature-based solutions spanning urban environments, rural landscapes, and humanitarian settings. And we begin by examining the integration of nature-based solutions in urban areas, emphasizing how green infrastructure can significantly enhance the quality of life in cities. And this theme will be, as you'll see, echoed in several posters, highlighting how urban green spaces and nature-based activities can mitigate the adverse effects of climate change, improve public health, and foster social equity. And this research presented here today demonstrates the crucial role of NbS as well in making cities more resilient and livable. Another central theme, which you'll hear in today's posters, is the restorative power of nature-based solutions in degraded landscapes. From the Chatham Hill tracks to coastal ecosystems, the studies showcase how nature-based solutions can revive ecosystems, protect biodiversity, and support sustainable livelihoods. And this highlights the multiple benefits of nature-based solutions, including how environmental restoration can be coupled with socioeconomic development. And lastly, some of the posters also delve into the critical role of nature-based solutions in climate adaptation and disaster risk reduction, which you'll hear more about in today's afternoon sessions. So by leveraging natural systems like wetlands, forests, nature-based solutions can provide effective barriers against extreme weather events and enhance the resilience of communities. And following on from that, you'll hear about the application of nature-based solutions in humanitarian contexts as well, in the context of post-disaster recovery and long-term resilience building. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over the floor to Pauline. And each speaker, please keep to 5 minutes. So Pauline, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I am Pauline Robuya. I'm a postdoc in epidemiology at Lund University in Sweden. Today, I'm going to present some preliminary results from a review on nature-based solutions in the public health literature. So to set up the background, I guess we all more or less know, but the concept of nature-based solutions has been introduced by practitioners in the 2000s, and it was promoted later by the IUCN and then officially defined by the European Commission in 2015. So it has been initially prevalent in environmental research, but it has also slowly started to disseminate in other research fields. So coming from public health and epidemiology and myself working on the links between biodiversity, climate change, and health, I was interested in exploring the development of NbS in the public health literature. So this study is based on a bibliometric search for the term nature-based solutions in the title, in the abstract, or in the keywords using Web of Science. So the search was then filtered using different categories in Web of Science, and we were able to have a restricted sample based only on the documents available in the Web of Science category, which is called Public Environmental Occupational Health. So now I'm going to present a few results from this literature search. So in the first figure, you can see the distribution of publications throughout these different categories. So in all the Web of Science categories, there were approximately 3,000 documents, and the first document found was in 2009. But then when filtering only on the public environmental occupational health category, the number of documents dropped to 84, which was about 3% of the initial search. So in the second figure, you can see the distribution over the years in this specific category of public health. And the first occurrence was found in 2015. So in this restricted sample, there was about 80% of articles and 17% of reviews. And the considered NbS were implemented in different geographical areas and mostly in Europe, Asia, and Africa. So regarding their characteristics, they were mostly situated in urban settings, and they included very, very varied types, such as urban parks, urban forests, natural environments, grasslands, green spaces. And when looking at the different health outcomes associated in these studies, they were mostly related to mental health. And the designs that were used were not very often longitudinal designs, but more cross-sectional. So in conclusion, it seems that there is a growing interest in NbS looking from the health perspective, but the current literature is quite limited in this area. And from our epidemiological perspective, there is a need for more studies with longitudinal designs.
Thank you, Pauline. In the interest of time, I'm going to move over directly to the next presentation, but I will give space at the end for questions to all of the presentations. So I'm just going to now invite and welcome Carl to present his poster, and I will be sharing that right now. Carl, are you with us?
Yeah, so I'll start by introducing myself. So I'm Carl Anderson. I'm a postdoc researcher at Leibniz University Hanover in Germany. And so what I'll present today is it's actually a work that's currently under review, so hopefully comes out soon. And we looked at urban green spaces as nature-based solutions for cooling off from extreme heat. We used the environmental justice framing to look at equity of these spaces and how they're used. And we use public participation GIS. So also I apologize, I'm a bit sick, and usually my voice is not so bad. So I start in the top left with research design and methods. So the aim of the research was to determine the degree of spatial equity of public green spaces as nature-based solutions for cooling off on hot days. And this is in Bochum, Germany. So for those of you who are not familiar, this is in the Ruhr region, so a region with a history of mining and steel and a really large urban conglomeration next to Dortmund and Essen. Right, so we had 329 residents respond to our survey. We used non-representative sampling, and then we followed up with some outreach to senior homes to increase elderly participation. So we used the survey PPGIS survey platform MapShanair, And we look at the degree of reliance on nature-based solutions for cooling, how they're used, the quality, perceived neighborhood NbS, and public preferences generally. So the kind of assumption behind the research is that for justice, those with a higher need or a higher risk or higher reliance also should have a higher potential use. So it's not kind of equal opportunity, but rather those who need the spaces the most are also able to access them. So the result of the first research question is the degree of public reliance. So do you ever visit these spaces to cool off on hot days? 65% of respondents said yes, 33% never for cooling. 40% strongly agree that they need to cool off on hot days. Yeah, so we can see your screen and not the poster anymore. There we go, thanks. Right, for the second research question, what green spaces are visited and why? This is the actual outputs of the PPGIS, which is, I didn't explain, it's a digital mapping applications to survey. So the respondents can see kind of a digital map and place points on the NbS that they visit to cool off. So we have this map of where they visit, and we also calculate the travel distance to their preferred green spaces for cooling. You can see some of the NbS in the southern portion of the study area with water features are particularly popular, but there's also some forests that are highly valued for their cooling. So the third research question, we look at differential local availability, access, and quality, and we find generally that, well, access is perceived as fairly high, but yeah, more needs to be done in terms of planning to ensure availability and quality across the study area. In relation, similarly, we do hotspot analysis, and just really quickly, we kind of see that people have to travel out from the urban core to reach cooling NbS, so it's not kind of equally available across the study area. Finally, how is reliance related to quality? We see that those who are like social vulnerability and satisfaction with cooling characteristics like trees, shade, and just the ability of the space for cooling is there's no relation, but there is a positive correlation between heat misperception and stated need to visit green spaces and satisfaction, which is good because those who need it more are increasingly satisfied. So to wrap up, some of the key messages: cooling off in public green spaces as NbS is relatively widespread and highly valued in the study area. There's mostly evidence for equitable visitation, but we did find some spatial inequity, especially in terms of availability and quality, but also among lower income residents who are increasingly less satisfied with these cooling characteristics. You can access the full survey. It's still online through the QR code there. Well, thanks very much.
Hi everyone, this is Kobiruddin from International Center for Integrated Mountain Development based on Nepal. It's also a short form we call ICIMOD. And I'm by education geographer, but I'm working at ICIMOD as a GIS and remote sensing specialist. And this is a very much special occasion means I'm talking about the survey solution in this very important forum. So this is the poster. Mostly I kept as a very much graphical form, so it would give quite good impression if you are looking. Those are the photo. So survey solution restoring the Chittagong hill tracks. Why we should work for survey solution in the Chittagong hill tracks? Chittagong hill tracks actually one of the most beautiful part of Bangladesh, on the hilly area in Bangladesh. There is lots of cultural heritage out there. More than 11 tribal people are living there. If you see also some photo, actually, those are the photos from there. Those are the houses there. But over time also, when we are looking the remote sensing based study, like a land cover map, you can see left side I'm presenting there. So we can see also over time, land cover changing are there. Forest are cover converting to the maybe agriculture, sometime also some cash crop and few other agriculture area like nowadays lots of mango plantation are coming also over there. Besides this, lots of tourism activities going on. Many tourists are there. So these are the activities actually always happening, and lots of tourists side, big motel, everything coming, sometimes unmanageable tourism going, and land cover, ultimately land cover are changing out there. So what kind of opportunity actually could be taken place actually in nature-based solution? They should build actually a high rise of building in this area, or how they can easily can multiple benefits they can get from this study. So our study was to see the land cover changes, then find out all the location of the tourism. Based on that, try to see where is the area they can do restoration. We may can say the restoration can be taken place everywhere, but a priority basis we can say that okay, this is the area we should work for restoration. If you see some photo actually in the first one concept, those are the photo is Bogalek Paral sometime back I captured. Those are the area. Actually, if you see the people house very much unique. And but how we can convert to that? That second photo is of the left side photo, actual photo. Second one as the so just I tried to convert to this. So if we in Bangladesh, one of the tendency people they do plantation as a nature-based solution. But if they carefully selecting some trees, which are the native trees, which can be giving shade. Suppose if they're selecting some Bombex Siva, we know as a shimul. Shimul tree is very long, is quite big. It attracts lots of birds. It gives as a cotton. Its root has a medicinal value. Even if they cut the tree, these are mats they have to use. In the same time, if you see in the last photo in the concept 2, that is the Rang Lake area. There is lots of area actually remain as a grassland unused. But if we carefully actually that are the area, we can select the nature-based intervention for restoration. One branch of tree, but it has to select by native tree, because if I'm selecting, maybe I'm not, I don't know what plant will be useful, but considering the community understanding and all other perception wise, if they even they convert their small houses into the wooden houses, it can be very much attractive, and there is lots of tourists are going. And also their house, if they are focusing little bit in a service solution, they convert to the homestay. Also, there is some flowering tree, ornamental tree. They can get lots of tourist attraction. In Bangladesh, always people loves to see if there is large flowering trees are there. People are traveling maybe 200 kilometers such kind of tree. So this is the some concept actually we are trying to put. Also, sometimes we are publishing our how they can benefit it through the survey solution in the hill tracks area. People can get benefited, financial benefited also. Until they are getting financial benefited, people will not be getting the attraction also, our assumption that one. So that's why we are trying to create some concepts. Okay, this is the where if you are trying to do some planting your trees, you are enhancing your area, it can be helpful. So this is my quick presentation. I hope many will have some comments, concern on that. So look forward for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kabir. And thank you. Wonderful presentation. So I just wanted to check, Claudia, if we're now able to hear you.
Hi everyone, so my name is Claudia and I'm actually a teaching assistant from the National University of Singapore. And the research that I'm about to present is with regards to the research that I did a few years back, and it's looking at the association between nature-based activities and human health with regards to physical health and mental health in Singapore. So this is one of the gaps that we are trying to fill using our research, because usually for this kind of relationships between health and nature-based solutions, we tend to look at the landscapes. So now we are trying to contribute to this by looking at the activities. So the activities can include not just exercise, but non-exercise recreational activities such as sightseeing, community gardens, so on and so forth. So that's one of our research questions. And our second research question is to do with weather and interest in nature, which we will measure using the nature relatedness scale developed by Ms. Bet, whether that has an influence on this relationship. So we actually did this by conducting an online market research survey on a representative sample of 1.5K Singaporeans, measuring their physical health, their mental health using the DASS 21 scale as a proxy, the nature-based activities such as exercise like brisk walking, low-intensity exercises like nature-based yoga, and recreation such as sightseeing, photography, and so on and so forth. Other factors that we also recorded is total exercise time, the nature relatedness scale, demographic factors, and other medical history. So all the scores, times, and counts are then analyzed using generalized linear mixed models with negative binomial errors. So this is still ongoing, the analysis is still ongoing, but what we have found so far is with regards to mental health in terms of DAS21 scores for depression, anxiety, and stress, there is a reduction in the scores with increased nature affinity, so that's represented by NR self, and with an increase of nature concern, and that's represented by NR perspective. In addition, we found that NR perspective interacts with the duration spent with low-intensity nature-based exercises. So when NR perspective is low, it's when you actually see that with increased low-intensity exercise duration, will DASS scores, so all three, depression, anxiety, and stress, actually increase. With regards to physical health, we found that and there's an increased number of physical chronic disease illnesses diagnosed in the individuals when there's an increase in nature-based activity time, but only if individuals have a low joy derived in nature, which is represented by NR experience. For those that are diagnosed with any common chronic illnesses, what we found is that the years in physical chronic illnesses actually decrease when individuals participate in more different types of nature-based activities, and if they spend longer time brisk walking in nature areas, as long as their NR experience is high. So from this, we can actually really see that there's an effect of nature relatedness in all the three subscales. So for example, in NR experience, how much positive experiences one derives from nature will definitely affect the amount of nature dose and whether one will actually have any health benefits from nature-based activities. For NR self, which is usually affiliation with nature, is usually associated with increased self-reflection tendencies, and this could help process negative emotions and thereby help regulate depression, anxiety, or stress symptoms. As for NR perspective, which is usually linked to the concern and initiative one has for the environment, this is a little bit iffy, but then we hypothesize that this increased enthusiasm and perseverance to want to protect the environment could help with overcoming physical challenges, for example, in exercise. As for nature-based activities, we found that there are some differences with the effects to different health. So for example, low-intensity exercises in nature, so this would include yoga and Tai Chi, for example. This could actually have an impact on mindfulness. And when you combine this with restorative features in nature, so for example, high perceived biodiversity, that is when this combines together to help regulate negative emotions. We already know that light cardio exercise like brisk walking does have an impact on physical chronic illness elevation. So when you actually do it in nature settings and when you really derive joy in nature, this can actually have enhanced effect. And last but not least, given that different activities can deliver different health benefits, a greater diversity in participating in nature-based activities could bring better health benefits. So this is just an associative study. So once we are done with the analysis, we hope that this could provide a first step into informing experiments and clinical studies that could help to develop nature-based therapies. We also found that the interactions with nature-relatedness and nature-based activities should be investigated further in order to optimize the effects. With that, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you very much, Claudia. And without further ado, I will move on to the next presenter. Shun, if the floor is yours, and I will be sharing your poster now.
Thank you for the opportunity to present. Good evening from Tokyo, everyone. My name is Sunya Tadmil, and I'm a master's student at Sophia University, Tokyo, Japan. And I'll be presenting about my thesis research on integrating nature-based solution into environmental policy for climate change adaptation in federal states of Micronesia. So the research focused on small island developing states which known as SIDS, which are highly vulnerable to climate change impacts due to unique geographic characteristics. And this leads to severe environmental, economic, and social consequences. Therefore, climate adaptation is imperative for reducing climate risk and increasing resilience. And in the recent years, integrating NbS approach into policy emerged as a promising strategy to advance climate adaptation efforts. So this research examines the extent to which the current environmental policy in FSM addresses NbS and explores how the NbS integration into policy supports climate adaptation. And the research focused on the federal states of Micronesia, which is a country spread across the Western Pacific Ocean. And this research is based on case study and narrative approach, which includes interview with academic researchers, experts, and government officials. And moving on to the results shows that after reviewing national and state environmental policy in FSM, all the environmental policy recognize and consider the fundamental idea of NbS with main focus on conserving and protecting the existing ecosystem. However, the term NbS is explicitly mentioned in only one state policy. And moving on to the key findings, the research uncovers several insights by answering 3 research questions. First point is that expert interview reveals that despite of an adequate mention of NbS concepts, there are lack of policy implementation and also face challenges in attracting funds. And for a second point, the outcome demonstrates that NbS benefits various stakeholders, empowering communities to actively engage in decision-making process and preserving traditional values at the same time. However, challenges are land tenure complexities and limited immediate positive effects from NbS. And finally, we have learned that other SIDS and FSM can learn lessons from each other. And from FSM, having programs with collaboration between local and international NGOs enhance local community engagement and also increase participation. And from other SIDS, for example, from Republic of Marshall Islands, aggregate study has been occurred to enhance sustainable coastal management and also to understand the potential erosion area in the future. Therefore, FSM can explore NbS beyond the conservation and protection approach by learning lessons from other SIDS. And quickly moving to discussion part, the results find that there are potential solutions to various key challenges in FSM. And the potential solutions include having awareness raising and capacity development programs, getting access to official development assistance and external funds, and lastly, applying appropriate standard protection guidelines. This is because prior to advancing NbS integration, it is essential to avoid negative social and environmental issues by respecting the indigenous people's rights, securing transparency, and information accessibility. So for further the further long-term solution to advance the NbS integration, FSM can consider implementing mixed green and gray infrastructure initiative, And lastly, FSM can strengthen institutional capacity to leverage international support and utilizing funds effectively. This is because as global recognition and promotion of NbS increases, the international organization emphasis on increasing finance on NbS. So more ODA agendas are expected to include NbS approach, therefore strengthening institutional capacity in ODA management will create opportunity to accelerate NbS integration in the future. With this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shun. Wonderful, and continuing our shift to the higher scales and the policy level, we're going to have our final poster on the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration by Nidhi, if you're with us, and I see you are. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself and also share your poster. Thank you.
Nidhi Nagabatla. I'm working as a program head for Nature, Climate and Health Cluster at United Nations University. We are a UN think tank, and we are supporting member states and UN agencies to implement various sustainability agendas, among which is the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, a 10-year commitment from 2021 to 2030 to preventing, halting, and reversing loss of nature. The UN General Assembly mandated this by a statement saying that there has never been more urgent need to revive damaged ecosystems than now. I also speak on behalf of the Task Force on Capacity Building and Best Practices of the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration. And in this poster, I'm going to just give you a snapshot of the work we are doing. And this event is really a kind of a great platform to share some of these insights, because nature-based solution, or the NbS in short concept, is very much integrated into different documents, methodologies, processes, implementation plans, but also acknowledgement of existing NbS solutions that have the capacity to be scaled at a different level, to operationalize in different contexts. Something which is very fundamental to the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration is the restoration continuum, as you can see on the screen, which helps the member states, projects, activities to measure different stages of different stages. So to qualify an activity as a restoration activity, so it's reducing impacts but remediating, rehabilitating, and when ecological functions are restored. So this could be a time-taking activity. So 10 years is for observation, for collection of best practices. There are different task forces working with think tanks like IUCN, like WWF, like Wetlands International, and global experts, regional experts, but also community-based organizations to put data, information, and knowledge about restoration in the flow, but also to acknowledge complementing mechanisms like nature-based solutions to create generation restoration. I really will emphasize on the word generation and restoration. This is one of the methodologies of the task force is also to do multi-stakeholder consultations with experts. So these are open calls, which anyone can subscribe to, you as a student, you as a practitioner, you as a member of a research organization, or a member of a government organization. So anyone can subscribe to participate in these assessments. Then there are stakeholder consultation meetings. There are first draft of the documentation. There are feedback loops that are established by taking back the first draft to the member states, to other open consultation, open review. And then there are a couple of documentations or guidelines that are generated to help agencies and communities to implement the agenda. So one thing is that we have a document, or agenda document, but then the other thing is also to help these agencies, these states, countries mandated with this agenda to implement it. For that, we have outlined the principles for ecosystem restoration to guide the decade. And I will pause here and maybe also make the connection with the IUCN principles for nature-based solutions, which served as a great reference point to devise this principles only for ecosystem restoration. This also happened through global capacity need assessment. Do states and communities have financial capacity, technical capacity, human capacity to implement all these agendas? So this whole stakeholder assessment was happening in tandem. Then after these documents are produced, then the next step is to understand presenter framework. So you have guidelines, but now we are at the stage midway around 2024 to present a framework for ecosystem restoration monitoring. The framework will consist of registry of restoration initiatives. This could also involve some of the nature-based solution projects that qualify the criteria to be labeled as restoration activities. Geospatial tools for visualization, dashboard that will provide analytics on compiled restoration data from around the world. Anything above 100 hectares as somewhere is a qualifying scale, but it can go to even smaller than that if it presents a unique case. I will also now maybe give you an insight of the 8 capacity and knowledge development initiatives that will follow from starting now to the next 2 years. These 8 initiatives are targeted to specific needs. It could be building capacity of professionals in the government departments. It could be building capacity of scholars in the specific universities or research centers. So first 2 are building capacity, then also making governments, agencies, donor, and financial institutions to make pledges for restoration activities. So activity 7, so I'm not going to read everything, but you are you can download some of these documents through using the QR code. But the idea is to emphasize, and if I can maybe shift a little bit to the right, to show you the pledges that are already coming out. During the UN conference on water last year, this was a pledge was made by member states, by donor agencies to restore 25,000 square kilometers of river basin areas around the world. So these pledges are super important to see that documentation leads into desired actions. And I think this was one example I wanted to just flag as a success story of working together with different level of different stakeholders, but also to leverage from existing discourse on nature-based solutions, the efforts, the activities, projects, programs, research at all levels to create generation restoration through collective action. Thank you.
Thank you, Nidhi. That's wonderful. What a wrap up to talk about the UN decade on ecosystem restoration, and thank you for mentioning the relationship between the ecosystem decade restoration principles and the criteria on nature-based solutions, which you heard about this morning from the previous session. And it's also worth mentioning the close links with these principles and criteria, and then those that underpin the ecosystem approach in the conventional biodiversity. So now we have some time for questions and discussion, and I'd like to actually just kickstart with a well, first I should remind everyone that the posters will be available online. So I see there are some requests in the chat to share, so feel free to share your posters directly, but they will be on the website. So Nidhi, actually, I'll start with you because there is a question in the chat talking about the biodiversity recovery chart, and the question is whether it was developed also in association with the IPCC. Yeah, I perhaps you could comment on that, and how this might have an impact on your work. I am hopefully that question is clear.
Okay, I think I understand it referring to the ecosystem restoration continuum. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so a little bit of background to that. So this work is being developed and co-implemented by SER, the Society for Ecosystem Restoration, that has got a number of regional chapters, and they work primarily to developing guidelines, protocols, and pathways for restoration activities worldwide. So this is a part of a publication, which also was a reference material to draft the ecosystem, the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration documentation for approval by the UN General Assembly. So that was a part of the pitch. And then as a part of the implementation documentation, this is very central because this is a kind of a central framework to understand the criteria, the continuum or the pathway of what qualifies as restoration and what does not. So I think it helps us to to having some kind of a reference framework. It's not cast in iron, but it's some kind of a reference framework where member states activities, projects can be qualified as a restoration project, because then there are funding pledges, there are funds available, there are technical, human, and financial capacities available through the restoration decade to be channeled to only those activities that qualify as ecosystem restoration projects. So I think we needed some kind of criteria definition, and this continuum by the authors and the team of SCR served that well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that might start to address also the a question that was just posted in the chat. So I'll move on, but feel free to expand on that in the chat, Nidhi. I want to shift back to the practice or the implementation on the ground scale. And so which the first presentations focused on, including through evidence syntheses. So first, I'd like to ask Pauline, our first speaker today, if you have expanded the search to other databases. Might that expansion into other database shift the result or perhaps show complementary perspectives?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've performed the search in Scopus also, which was a bit larger. So I had like 4,000 results, which was a bit more. But then looking at this area of public health and more specifically on medicine, it was still a low percent of the total. So it was about 3% in the same way. And then the distribution between articles and reviews was also similar. So pretty similar results in this other database.
Okay, so yeah, it corroborates your findings, which you shared with us. Thank you, Pauline. I want to move to Carl now, just to ask a quick question, because you spoke about justice, and for those of you who tuned in this morning, the keynote speaker did talk a lot about justice. So there is a strong pertinence of justice, if you will, or there's a very important role that justice plays in nature-based solutions. So can you tell us a bit more about important lessons that you might be able to share with other researchers that are looking at the nexus of justice and nature-based solutions, Carl?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question, Alex. So maybe from a practical and a theoretical perspective, first with the practical is that just you really have to ensure that you have enough kind of budget for really implementing surveys in a just way. So it's a little bit hypocritical. I mean, we did the best we could, but yeah, our survey ended up, we didn't expand it beyond English and German. So we excluded, not intentionally, obviously, but some minority communities through that. And then as well as just, the sampling efforts to really make sure that you reach the most kind of disadvantaged who you're also targeting. So it's a fairly kind of obvious statement, but something that, it's really worth keeping in mind, that upfront investment in time and resources is really necessary. Second point, just quickly from a theoretical perspective, there's a lot of research on distributive justice. So the kind of position in space and access to resources and exposure to environmental burdens or hazards, much less on procedural and recognitional justice. And this is something we're looking to take up in future research. But it's more difficult. And that gets back to the first point where you really have to kind of allocate, well, just in our case with the survey sampling, but also understanding kind of historical processes that have led to the current distribution in space of potential inequity. So yeah, I think that's the lessons for others interested in this research field.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Yeah, that's really important, emphasizing how, you know, we need to think about justice not in relation to just the design of the intervention itself, but also the process of collecting data and basically doing research to inform the interventions, and the emphasis on the different dimensions of justice is also very important and core to this question of equity in nature-based solutions. Equity not just in terms of outcomes, but equity in terms of the types of knowledges that are incorporated, equity in terms of decision making, and those points were also central to the keynote talk this morning. I'd like to ask a question now to Shun, who talked about small island developing states and the challenge of climate adaptation. And we heard this morning that there is a lot of complexity in nature-based solutions and how nature-based solutions might be able to address societal challenges. And sometimes this complexity is very difficult to translate to decision makers. So Shun, what are your thoughts on what aspects should small island developing states, or SIDS, prioritize to deliver adaptation when planning for nature-based solutions?
Yes, thank you for the question. And I believe a significant challenge with NbS is your time-consuming nature, which is kind of problematic for small island developing states where time is a critical constraint. So as I mentioned in the presentation, one of the points I really want to highlight is the importance of considering a blend initiatives that integrate green infrastructure from NbS and gray-green infrastructure as an engineered solution. So it is important to strategize with a clear timeline, including a short-term, medium-term, and maybe long-term goals for NbS. And the hybrid model will enables a phased implementation strategy with short-term objective, including a proportional mix of NbS and grid infrastructure, and gradually transitioning towards a greater reliance on NbS over the medium term. And ultimately, finally, FSM can achieve NbS target with the long term. So I think we must really recognize that implementing NbS requires times and resources. So while nature can be resilient, it is also unpredictable. So, the FSM can encounter unexpected challenges. So therefore, I really think that FSM should prioritize, or small island developing states should prioritize and plan carefully on those initiatives, and taking account of both timeline or timing and the budget constraint to really ensure the tangible benefits for the communities. That's what I think for now. Yeah.
Thank you, Shun. Thanks, Shun. And I'm wondering, Kabir, if you might have any thoughts on either the phase approach that Shun just mentioned, or how to reconcile perhaps different objectives, bearing in mind that outcomes can take time to mature or be delivered. And I'm asking this because you mentioned this, the importance of recognizing the benefits for nature, but also livelihoods and income.
Yes, that is actually very important. If it as an example, I can tell Chittagong Hilltops, people depend on the spring water. So spring are day by day drying. People are not having a sufficient water. So if we nature-based solution, people can apply for restoring the spring or reviving the spring. That is the techniques actually. But that instantly cannot be succeed. So there is actually a process protocol out there how people can detect. So maybe 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, we should have all the baseline information. Currently, how much water people are getting, what is the relation between the nature-based solution, rainfall, and all other things. So those are the things also important. So once people may be thinking, okay, we are not getting water, but due to the nature-based solution intervention, we are getting now sufficient water. People may be motivated very much. Same way as I was mentioning, if through the natural intervention, if it aesthetic view can be enhanced in the local community area, so people will go to their homes tourism and people may stay there and people may get also some money. So that is some idea actually I was trying to talk about here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kabir. Thank you. Yeah, and as we can see, the nature-based solutions play out in very different ways in different contexts, but that there are some common and very important themes. One last question before I wrap up this session. I wanted to ask Claudia, who presented some important findings on the pertinence of nature-based solutions for delivering on human well-being and in the context of urban nature. I was wondering if some of the evidence was being used or had been influential in perhaps influencing healthcare provisioning in your contexts. So I'm wondering if you've been involved in that.
Okay. Thanks for the question. So for this particular findings that I presented, because the analysis is still going on, so there has not been an opportunity for any talks of translation just yet. But we did conduct a previous survey sometime in, I think, 2019. And we did publish quite a few studies from there, and that includes what kind of urban and green spaces tends to be associated with different kinds of exercises and frequency. And beyond that, we actually also conducted with other departments in the National University of Singapore certain so-called prescription activities. So this is mainly done by the Department of the School of Public Health. And I think the School of Medicine is also doing some experiments on that as well. And some of them have actually been translated to feature contemplative features on urban gardens, for example. And that is supposed to help with decreasing the symptoms of dementia for older adults.
Thanks, Claudia. That's really interesting, and I know that this relationship between nature and health is very important across many different contexts, and also looked at here in the United Kingdom. Well, we're coming to an end, and I want to take the time to really thank all the participants who are joining us across very different time zones. Thank you for sharing your posters with us. These will be uploaded online. I also, want to thank all the participants for joining us today and learning about these insights on nature-based solutions. So, in summary, today's poster session really, I think, demonstrates a picture of the transformative potential of nature-based solutions, whether in urban settings, degraded landscapes, or areas facing humanitarian crises. Nature-based solutions do offer a promising path towards a more sustainable and equitable future. That's not to say, of course, there aren't challenges. Some of these have been discussed today, but by resolving and addressing these challenges, such as communicating more effectively to decision makers, how nature-based solutions deliver on health, I think they definitely do offer an important path for equity. So and resilience. So we hope you found the presentations insightful and inspiring, and we look forward to seeing you online for the rest of the conference starting this afternoon. Thank you, everyone.